Hello. So I wanted to show you all how to make a great awl, or two or three or four or five awls, A-W-L. So I wanted to talk about how to make a free, beautiful, very functional, wonderful metal awl, which is a tool for leatherworking. If you get into any kind of leatherworking, whether that's sewing buckskin or furs or vegetable tan leather, you need a metal awl. You don't need one, but even myself, I was a purist, and I think for the first year I was sewing buckskin. I was so stubborn that I was only using bone awls, and then I converted because it took me 10 or 20 times as long. But I actually alternate when I make leather garments. I alternate between using a metal awl, so something like this, or a little one like this, a metal awl, and a bone awl, something like this. So I'm alternating back and forth as I go. So I'm poking my holes into leather in a wooden board, a softwood board like pine, anything softwood, not a hardwood, just a scrap flat board. When I'm poking holes in leather, I'm putting my leather on the board and using the metal awl to poke holes right through the leather. Then when I'm sewing, I'm using a bone awl to sort of reopen up each hole as I feed the leather thong through it. So it's a two-part job, two different absolutely indispensable awls. And I am a big fan of making almost all my own tools. It's unbelievable how little I buy for all of my craft work. Apart from metal blades, which I'm happy to buy and trade from blacksmith friends, or to get Swedish or Swiss made, like my hatchet and a couple of my knives are Swedish or Swiss made steel, which is good stuff. Pretty much for the most part, nearly all my other tools that I can think of, I make. And they're wonderful, and I make them exactly how I need and want them to be, and they're perfect. So I want to dissuade people from feeling like, we live in a culture that's like, oh, you want to get into this craft or that craft? Like, buy this whole line of products. This is like your leatherworking products crap. It's just like, it's asinine. It's just so stupid. So I just wanted to show you how to make your own metal awls if you want to. Here's a whole bunch of examples of some of my metal awls. I have 5 or 6 of them, and I've had this batch for a number of years, and none of them have broken. I've used them all the time. I use all the awls all the time, so they work great for me. And I'll show you how I do it, and you can do it at home. So all you need is some scrap nails. Like, find a bucket of somebody's scrap nails, like the rusty, the scrap nails that are, some of them are rusty, some of them are bent, unwanted nails. I mean, you could buy new nails if you want, but I don't. Just grab some scrap nails, and find the ones that are the straightest. You want like ones that are pretty straight. It doesn't matter if they're totally rusty. And thin ones or big thick ones. 2 penny nails are on the big side, but choose whatever you want for how fine you want your awl to be. So what you're going to do is just choose any little piece of wood that you want, and it's going to be your handle. And I actually have a whole batch of these that are still like unfinished. They're blanks. And this just happened to be thin diameter branches from a hemlock tree. Like, at the time, this was like 4 years ago, I think, I made these. I had stripped like a few small hemlock trees of bark to use the bark for tanning because the 2 hemlock trees were already being taken down for someone to build a cabin. So of course I was like, okay, I'm gonna strip all the bark. I want it all. So I had all these branches left over of wood that were stripped. So I just took some of the segments of branches and just cut little sections of wood. So that's why they're shaped that way. But you could use a square, a rectangle, just any hunk of wood you want. It can be softwood or hardwood. It doesn't actually matter. Not too much. So just a little hunk of wood and your batch of nails. And here's the real trick, is that you just need a hammer and ideally a hacksaw, if you have one, or if you can borrow a hacksaw from somebody. It's just a special saw that can saw through metal. So, if you got somebody that's got a little wood shop or some tools in their garage, go over there and see if they'll let you use them. So here's the big trick. You just want to hammer your nail. I like to first, take my nail and the hammer and kind of knock the tip of the nail just a little bit, just to dull it, just a teeny weeny bit. And that keeps the wood from splitting a little bit better. I don't know. I grew up with a carpenter for a father, so I just have all these wood quirks. So you want to nail your nail straight into the piece of wood. You're hammering it straight into the piece of wood. So you want to go very far through the wood, but not all the way out the back. You don't want to see the tip of the nail coming out of the back. But you also don't want to tap the nail in just a little bit. You want to really drive it in there so it's really wedged in there really well, but not starting to come out the other side. And here's the trick, don't use a super nice piece of wood yet. See how this isn't carved into anything yet. It's just a rough piece of wood, because depending on what the wood is, whether it's a softwood or a hardwood, or what type of cut it is, if it's a little piece of wood like this, and you're hammering a nail in there, a good proportion of the pieces of wood are going to split, okay? So don't make it anything too precious, okay? So the ones that split, I'm like, darn. So I take that nail out and hammer it into another piece of wood. But odds are you'll get plenty where the wood doesn't split. It's nice and whole. The nail went in, and some of these are kind of crooked. You can tell it's not so good, but this one went in pretty straighter. Okay, so once your nail's in there, then you're going to want to take a hacksaw and so the head of the nail would have been right here. And you want to saw off the head of the nail. Okay, so I know it would be tempting to just say, oh, if I just hammer a nail straight through the piece of wood, right, the sharp tip of the nail is going to come out the other end, and the head of the nail will be stuck up here, and then, great, you've got an instant awl. Nope, it's not going to work. It's quick, it's easy, it's tempting, but as soon as you use that awl, just the constant action of you pushing down on that awl to poke holes into leather, it's going to very quickly, within a matter of the first time you use it or the first few days or weeks that you use it, the nail is just going to wedge itself right out, and you're going to have to be shoving it back in, it'll wedge itself back out, and you just don't want tools that you have to fix or fuss with constantly as you're using them. These crafts are hard enough. You need your tools to work while you're working. Okay, so cut off the head of the nail, and then I just have these dull ends, okay? And then you're just going to need to resharpen the ends into the point that you want, either a super fine point or, a little bit thicker point, whatever you like. You can see how I usually sharpen them pretty fine. I even go finer than this a lot. Yeah, I don't consider those ultra fine, but they're not bad. Let me see. I love this one. This one's really tiny. It's a really nice point. I use that one a lot. So I just use like a real cheap knife sharpener stone because I have like, I don't know, I don't want to fuck up a really nice expensive sharpening stone. So if you have knives and blades, you should have sharpening stones. I'm not going to go into how to sharpen knives right now, but this is just a really cheap basic sharpening block that you can like get at any hardware store. They're inexpensive and it's hard to see in the video, but they have two different sides to them. And yeah, it's too hard to see here, but they look very different. So one is very rough. The side is coarse, and you can see it. And this side is a medium grit. So coarse grit and medium grit. And it does do a number on these, sharpening like old nails, but since this is so cheap, I've had this for years, this will last forever. So often these stones need some oil, so you can use basic knife sharpening stone oil. It's just basic stuff you get at any hardware store. I've had this one bottle that's still like 2/3 full for years and years and years. I'm probably never going to go through it all because I use so little of it. If it's some stones are made to use with oil, some stones are made to use with water. So it just, you know, either way. So you just want to like dribble some oil on your stone or some water. And starting on the coarse side, just start sharpening. I didn't say this was going to be fast. You know, sometimes it takes me an hour, you know, to totally resharpen a pretty thick nail into a really fine point. And this also allows you to kind of rub off any rust, and you can get the whole nail bright and shiny and beautiful looking again. And you're just going to do that, you know, all over the nail. Turn it around as you go, and try to get a nice, even, symmetrical point, as fine as you can get it. And then, you know, once the point looks pretty good, I'll switch to the medium side and kind of smooth out the very tip as much as I can. And then I could even switch to an ultra fine stone. And I have a different ultra fine stone. But that's not totally necessary. It's up to you. So once you know, have your nice new tip, there's an example. Your nice new tip. Actually, this one I just bent my last project, so I need to resharpen it. So every time I accidentally bend the tip of one, just from use, just resharpen it. Just bring it back to the stone and touch it up just a little bit. It's good to go. You can fix your own tools super easily. Same with the bone tools. I do the exact same thing, except primitive bonecraft style. Okay, so once you've got your nice nail hammered into your piece of wood, resharpened, nice and pretty, then the last step would be to carve your wooden handle just how you want it. Right, so go from something like a messy little block of wood like this, and just with a little pocket knife, any type of little carving knife, just carve it into the shape that you want, smooth out the edges so that it's comfortable to hold. Now the shape might look weird to people. It's not the typical shape of an awl, but I like this shape. It like allows me to hold it like this, or like this, usually like this. For me, it's very comfortable. It fits in my hand like that. But whatever shape of wood is comfortable for you, there's no right or wrong. It's what's comfortable in your hand that allows you to really just put downward pressure on it, right? So obviously you don't want to carve a beautiful handle first and then hammer your nail into it and maybe have that piece of wood just split. Like, oh shit, I just got to do a new one, right? So do it at the end. Carve it at the end. And then it's good to just give it a little bit of oil, any type of oil, a little bit of olive oil if you have it on hand, lard, just any. It's always good to oil wood, all wood tools. I do. I keep all my wood tools nice and oiled, keeps them strong over time. I like to wood burn all my tools because I don't know, just like all the designs. So that's the black coloring that you see. Like all those cute magical little designs. So that's all that is. And that's nothing special. I've honestly, where is it? I'm not really a person who uses a lot of gadgets. I don't have a lot of gadgets in my life, but oh goodness, where is it? I can't find it, but I've been using the same little electric wood burner since I was like 11 years old. Like I've been wood burning the whole world since I was 10 or 11. It's just a simple little plug-in tool, so it's like a dorky little tool, but I love it to death. I've put a million bazillion hours on it. I don't think I must have put it down somewhere. Okay, so and then these little, you'll notice that my awls have funny little corks on them. Right, you want something on there so that when you throw your awls in your craft bag, they're not going to end up stabbing through the bag and other stuff, right? That would suck. So you need some type of cork, and I'm sure there's plenty of things you can use, but I usually use sumac because I am in love with sumac. I spend so many hundreds or potentially thousands of hours of my life with sumac, harvesting sumac leaves in the summer and in the fall, tanning with the sumac leaves, right? So here's I'll show you some blanks of sumac corks, and this is me. I'm in the eastern forests of North America, of the United States. So this is just a really common plant here in these forests. So it might be different wherever you are, but odds are in the ecosystem where you live, like there's got to be some great quirky stuff. So this is just branches. This looks like it was probably smooth sumac, but smooth and staghorn both have, if you break a branch or the central, it's not a trunk, sumac's kind of a shrub, the central trunk or branch, and you just break it in half or cut it in half, you'll notice that inside it's all pith. It's called pith, P-I-T-H, and it's a really soft, corky material inside. So just cut a little section of it. You can do it while it's green, but it's best to let it dry out first so it's nice and dry. There's quirky pith on both sides, and then your new awl, once you've made it, you just stick the awl straight into that quirky pith, but not all the way through. You don't want it to come out the other end, just like halfway through, and the pith will mold exactly to the size of that awl point, and they'll fit each other forever. Okay, so then it will be a great cork forever. And they're pretty snug on, and they come off and they go on. You can reuse them a million times and they stay really snug. So that's just my recommendation out there for making no cost, no extra materials needed for your own metal pointed awls that are extremely effective. I can say, as a leather worker, as a tanner and garment maker, they work great. I use them all the time. They're easy to fix if they break. It's easy to resharpen. and you can, you know, make the handle exactly to your specifications. And just use scraps, whatever you have around. Scrap wood, scrap nails. Maybe you have to borrow somebody's tools. You know, that's it. Yep, that's all I got. Hope it's helpful, inspiring. Bye.